Okay, good morning. Good morning to you. Good afternoon from Yerushalayim. And today's daf is Nun Vav. Actually, it's Nun Zayin. Actually, it's Nun Zayin. And we're up to the two dots on Nun Vav Amid Beis. So just to reiterate, we had a case in the Mishnah of Eidim Zomim. It was a unique case. You had Eidi Chazaka on year one, Eidi Chazaka on year two, Eidi Chazaka on year three. We spoke at yesterday that is not what? That is not Chatzi Davar, but it's a full Davar. It's a full Davar. We had the Rashbam who said that's because you couldn't have said any more Eidis than you did, right? As opposed to the Eidis on a woman, you could have seen both Sarais. Or Toises Pshad is that since each Eid by itself was a viable Eidis vis-a-vis eating Paris. Even though it can be part of a chazaka of 3 years, and also it would be mechayiv the person that who ate that year would to go ahead and pay the payers. So mainly would be what it would be good edus. It would be dava v'loy chatzi dava. That's what we said yesterday. There was another case in the Mishnah, a case with you had three brothers, right? We had three brothers. Okay, we won't make it Mo, Larry, and Curly, but right, we have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, three brothers. And a person was mitzdarf with them, and we said that it's a good edus because it's not saying what they all made it together. It's a good edus. Each one, this guy combined with Reuven for year one, this one combined with Shimon for year two, and this one combined with Levi for year three. And it's not considered one kat to go ahead and say it's pasul edus. Okay, the Gemara is going to go ahead on that case try to extrapolate a halacha. Says the Gemara, we're on the bottom of Nun Vav on the base. Shleisha Achin, ve'echad mitzdarif imahem. You had what? You had three brothers, and one was mitzdarif with them. Harielu shleish idios. It's considered three separate idios, so they don't pass each other because they're relatives. And they're considered edus achla zama. So the Gemara is going to give a case, and based upon the case, we want to go ahead and make an analogy to the case we just mentioned in the Mishnah. Ahu shtara, there was the shtar. The Havi Chasimi Aleha Beitrei. And it was signed on the shtar was what? Was two people. Signed on the shtar was two people. Okay, before Rabbi goes on, we're learning for Refuah Shlema for Tzvi David ben Sarah. Tzvi David ben Sarah. It's someone who's very close to us. It's Benji's son, who by Bez Hashem will be okay, needs a refuah. And then you can ask Benji about details, but again, in the Chus of Torah, you should have a refuah shalema b'karoiv. Okay, we're on Rabbi. We're on Nun Zayin Amid Aleph. Hahu shtara davi chasimi Allah beitrei. There was a shtar that two people were signed on it, and you needed the malva to go ahead and authenticate the shtar. Now, so shafach chad minayu. So what would have been normal would be the two Eidim to come along and testify. The two Eidim come along and testify on the signatures. Good? The two Eidim to test. In other words, I say on my signature, Heshi says on his signature. That would be great. What happened, however, was that one of the Eidim died before he had a chance to go ahead and testify on the signature. So, and what happened? His brother, the brother of the first guy, testified with another person on that signature. So you had one brother on his own signature, and on the second signature, you had his brother with another aid authenticating the shtar, apparently. In other words, I have Eidus on this signature, and I have Eidus on this signature, and we want to go ahead and compare it to our Mishnah. Just like our Mishnah, we had three brothers involved, and each one was considered a separate Eidus, and it was a good testimony. Who would then over here? You have a brother on this one. You have a brother on this one. It should be a good testimony, and it should go ahead and authenticate the shtar. That's the Gemara's. That is the sushta. So how shtar with the havi chasimi ala beitrei. There was a shtar that two people were signed on it. Shach v'chad minayin. One of them was what? Was died. Asa achva dehai dekoi. A brother of the one who was living, who had testified on his own signature. The Chadachrina, accompanied by another person, and to go ahead and testify on the signature of the second party, who is no longer here. Ravina held to say, Hainu mas nisan. That's the same din as our Mishnah. Gimel achim, the achim mitzdaraf imahem. You have three brothers, and one is combined with them. right? That's he wanted to say it's the same thing. Okay, now, what's the problem over here? The problem is that when it says Al Pishnai Medim Yakum Dover, you need to have each one saying on a half. If you look at the Rashbam, fellas, it's a long Rashbam. Before it gets wide, go up 3 lines. Right? Before it gets wide, go up 4 lines. Vanan Al Pishnayim Eidim B'inin, Chatzi Davar Al Piv Shel Zeh, V'Chatzi Davar Al Piv Shel Zeh. So Al Pishnayim Eidim Yakum Davar. To 2 Eidim, the matter will be established, each one doing a half of the matter. Right? That's what you need. So each one doing a half of the matter. The Hilkach. Okay, so we're going to see. Okay, so now, so once with that's established, guys. Once with that's established, let me speak it out outside. Why this is not a good thing yet? You need half and half. In our case of the 3, each one's doing a third, a third, a third, a third. In other words, when they found out to be Adam Zoimimim, really, this person, the one aid that was with them, is going to pay half, and they'll pay the other half. It's Salpishnai made him Yakum Davar. Again, the case of the Mishnah, 3 brothers, and this person accompanied each one. If they're found to be Zomimim, they have to pay the whole thing. He's paying half, and they're dividing it up a 6th, the 6th, and the 6th. But it's coming out, they're always doing half. That's why our Mishnah, it's good Edis, because Al Pishnayim Edim Yakum Davar, each one's doing a half. What about this case? One brother is testifying on his signature. That takes care of half, correct? Good. Now you have a brother here with a stranger, and they're saying on the other half. So the Rashbam says something very geschmack. Again, to go ahead and find the Rashbam that I want to share with you is not the easiest thing. If you go when the lines get wide, count down. When the lines get wide, count down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. Towards the end of the line, it says the Talmud the puzzle. We have it. Kenny, you're exempt. The Talmud the puzzle. Rachmana kroivim be'edis achas. Why are kroivim puzzle l'fnei edis achas? Guys, you would say because they're nagei bedava, correct? You would say because they're kroivim and because they're nagei be'edis. Listen what the Rashbam says. They're only considered to be what? One person. They're only considered to be one person. You hear this? When you have 2 brothers testifying, it's felt in Shnai Meidim. In other words, I'll give you a great example. Let's say you have the reason why they can't testify is because they're kroivim. If you had 2 gedolim who were brothers testifying, Reuven Feinstein and Rav David Zatzal, would you be choshed them for saying edus that is not good? Of course not, correct? But the problem is, al pishnayim edim yakum davar, you need 2. Brothers are considered 1. Good? So comes out very geschmack, guys. Watch. When this person said on his signature, he took care of half. When this person said on this signature, he also took care of half, but they're considered 1. So Nimsa, this is 3/4. They took care of 3/4. This guy is the quarter, and they're 3/4. That's not half and half. You need al pishnayim edim yakum davar. You need half and half. You can't have 3/4 and a quarter. Over here, you have 3/4 and a quarter. So therefore, that's not. It's an incorrect sushtel to our Mishnah, and therefore, in this case, it would not be an authenticated shtar. Says the Gemara, guys. Amalei Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi, who said to Ravina, who wanted to go ahead and make the analogy to our Mishnah, mi dummy, it's a comparable. Hassam over there by the 3 Eidim on the 3 years. You're not taking out a quarter of the money on the mouth of one. You're not taking out nechirifa means a quarter less than a whole. That's 3/4. You're taking out half and a half. Again, that one person is the one person that's mitzaref with each brother is mechuyev half, and the other ones are half. However, over here, hacha, by the case of kiyam shtaris, nafik nechiriva d'mamayna puma da'achi. You're taking out literally 3/4, a quarter less than a whole on the mouth of brothers. Therefore, that's not apishnai made yakum davar. It's not half and a half. It's 3/4 and a quarter, and therefore it's not good edus. That makes sense, guys? It was good? It was good. It's clear. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Eilu devarim Sheish lehem chazaka. These are the things that what? That you have chazaka. Ve'elu devarim shein lehem chazaka. Now, first we're going to go ahead to things that don't have chazaka. When guys, remember, when you don't have chazaka, it means that the fact that you're there for 3 years is not a raya that it's yours, because the other person that's involved is not makbid. In other words, there's no reason for him to be mocha. Again, when you say that there's no chazaka, what are you saying? That the other person, there's no reason for him to make a macha because he's good with it. So therefore, these are the things that what? That she'ein lehem chazaka, that you don't have chazaka. Hayamayimid behema b'chatzar. You're in a chatzar, and you go ahead and you have a behema there. Tanur, you have a tanur, two top stove, or let's change the gersa, the kirayim, or a one top stove, or reichayim. I think a tanur goes like this. I think it's not the top. I think a tanur goes like this, and kirayim is like this. I'm not sure. Again, it's I don't recall, but they're different types of ovens. Reichayim is a hand mill, guys. A hand mill, important, not a mill that's kavua, a hand mill for grinding grain. And you're raising chickens in the chutzner. And you put zevel in the chutzner. Ain't a chazaka. It's not a chazaka. Mashma, the other person who's in part of the chazaka, part of the ownership of this place is not makbid. So ain't a chazaka because it's not makbid. However, avalasa mechitza lebemasai. If a person would make a mechitza in the ground, 10 tvachim high, to go ahead and place in front of his animal. He put up this 10 tvachim high wall. Or he goes ahead and brings the chicken in his friend's house. He's bringing the chickens in his friend's house. He digs down 3 tvachim, or makes a wall high 3 tvachim to keep the zevel in place. In that case, you could expect the other person to go ahead and complain. And the fact that he didn't complain and didn't open his mouth, it would establish a chazaka. So the only difference between the first case and the second case is in the second case, he's putting up a wall, right? And the first case is not. In the first case, it's not a chazaka because we don't expect him to say anything. In the second case, we expect him to say something, and therefore it will be a chazaka. That's the pashut pshat in the Mishnah. That's the pashut pshat in the Mishnah. Okay? So there's a Rashbam here that's interesting. You look in the Mishnah, Hayamayimid behema, kol hanach devarim hametaltalim hein. All these things are metaltalim. They're carryable. They're movable. The einam tashmishal kvias, and they're not a use that's what going to be kavua set. The ein bal chotzim makbid, and the bal chotz is not makbid at arba v'chamisha shonim until 4 or 5 years. We have to see how the Rashbam knows that. No, it's after 3 years. And since he's not makbid, ein l'cha chazaka l'machzik loymar madu loy mechisa biyadi. There's no chazaka to say why weren't you a moicha? The amalei you could tell him bal chotzer loy chashashti limchos. I didn't even consider going ahead and make a macha. Loy mechaskas b'gufa karka. I didn't make a chazaka in the gufa karka. Kidemachsi inshi like people make a chazaka. Well, you see nifsed klum, and therefore I wasn't taking a loss. Miyata ani makbid, mata ani makbid. And from now on, I'll be makbid. Now I'm makbid afterwards. So, okay. So basically, we have an idea of the Mishnah. There's a difference between metaltalin and kavua. There's a difference between something that is not set, which a person is not going to make a macha, where kavua will make a macha. However, the Gemara asks the question, Maishna Reisha u'Maishna Seifa. So, l'chayra, I just told you the difference. The Reisha is speaking metaltalin, the Seifa is speaking kavua. So if you look at the Rashbam, very important, fellas. Maishna Reisha, the ma'amada behema kidi, just putting the animal there alone, b'lei mechitza ein zu chazaka, u'Maishna Seifa, the ba'asiyas mechitza kana. By making that, you would be kaina and have a chazaka. Because salka daitach, here's the havamina, hashta, the be inish ba'alma she'ena bar chatza zuka amar, the ein zu chazaka. We're not speaking about a person who's part of the chutzner. We're speaking about what? A person who comes from outside. He's not a person that's in the chutzner. It's a person that comes from outside. Now, if a person comes from the outside, the assumption is you would be makbid, rather than a person who is what? Part of the chutzner. Continues Rashbam. Therefore, there's a question. Ma'ishna reisha meseifa. Havadei makpidim b'nei chutzner alish nochri. Vada, a person will be makbid on what? On a strange person. Sheyavi kanbei myself to bring his. Can you imagine? You ever have in Brooklyn? I had the situations where I found a person on my front lawn with a dog, and the dog wasn't eating the grass. Right? He wasn't smoking it either. He was he was he was there. What was he doing there? I was makbid gomer. Can you imagine of a chutzner? Guy's bringing the chickens in. He's bringing a strange guy. He's bringing that in. There's no way in the world that Wadi's not going to be makbid. Yet, why did the Mishnah say he's not makbid? How do you know he's not makbid? Ain't like chazaka. He doesn't have a chazaka. So the Havamina of the Gemara is the difference. When I told you the difference between metalton and kavua is the end of the Gemara. The Gemara Salkadaitach is we're speaking about a strange guy who comes into your chutzner, goes there, takes a behemoth there, and if there's no wall, that's great. He could be there. I'm not makbid. Fred the Gemara, Maishna Reisha, Maishna Seifa. If you're speaking about an outsider, you are certainly makbid gomer. That's the Gemara's kasha. You need that connection from the Rashbam to tell you Salke Daitach, it's speaking about an outside guy. Since it's speaking about an outside guy, then you can understand there's no difference apparently between a wall and not a wall. That's the kasha. So that's the key. Maishna Reisha, Maishna Seifa. Ama Ula, Kol She'ilu B'nichsei Hager Kana. Anything that you would work making a chazaka in a field of hefker, right? Is kana, but nichsei chaveiroi kana. In the nechasim of your friend is kana. Kol shilu b'nichsei hager loy kana, b'nichsei chaveiroi kana. And anything that in the nechasim of ger, when you're trying to go ahead and acquire it from hefker, does not work. That in that case is not kana what in the chatzah. It's not kana in the chatzah. So apparently, if you go ahead and you take a behema without putting a wall in, you haven't improved the karka. If you go ahead and set up a hand mill, set up a tanner, set karayim, you haven't improved the chutzner. Since you haven't improved the chutzner, meaning therefore it will not be koine b'nichsei hager. Therefore, vis-a-vis the chazaka shalishanim of usage, it's not a chazaka. That's his rule of thumb. The rule of thumb of Ula. Conversely, if it's an action that would be kind of nichsei hager, if it's an action that's kind of nichsei hager, such as putting up a wall, right? And I guess you'd have to dig in the ground to put up a wall. By digging in the ground, you're going ahead, and you're making what's the lashon? You're being good. Not no gather. You're going ahead and you're rafik bapurta. That's what I was looking for. Rafik bapurta, you're doing a little bit. That's enough. That's the difference. Now you'll ask me, putting the chickens in a house, you're telling me that what? There's nothing to do with making a kinyan nichsei hager. So the Rashbam points that out, but he says without that we have a good question. In other words, we could have asked that on Ula. Ula, if that's your side to making the difference between a wall and not a wall, we said that what it's a chazaka that the guy brings chickens in the house. Bringing a chicken into the field of the ger is not going to be kind of the field, right? So Mamela, that from that we can ask a kasha. Says Rashbam, but you know what? We're asking a better kasha. We're asking a better kasha. Fred the Gemara, Maskal of Sheshes. Says Rav Sheshes on Ula's rule of thumb, the chilik between if it's kind of b'nichsei hager or not. Uklalahu, is this a klal? V'hari near. You have a case near, you're going ahead and plowing. V'hari near, you're plowing. The b'nichsei hager kana, it will be kind of b'nichsei hager. B'nichsei chaver lei kana, right? B'nichsei chaver, if you go ahead and plow, it would not be koina. Says Rashbam. Near Amin and Perik we said before, the kuliyam near lehavi chazaka. It's not a chazaka. B'nichsei hager koina, of course, it's rafik bapurta. But again, for over here, if you're going ahead and just plowing the field, it's not koina, right? Because everything depends upon achilas person. Fellas, I have a field. I watch you go ahead and plow my field. If you're not eating the payros, what do I say? Yashikoyach, right? Yeah, I have a field. You're plowing my field. You're not eating my payros, correct? B'nichsei hager, that would be koina, right? Because you're rafik b'porta. By cheska shalosh not. But what's your rule, Ula? Anything that's koina b'nichsei hager would be like chesak over here. So you see, it's not true. Says the one. Now, achilas payros. Conversely, achilas payros by chazaka would be koina, but by nichsei hager would not be koina. Guys, we had a case, right? You took a tree, you trimmed a tree, and the purpose of it was feeding what? feeding your animals. You're not kind of the tree. So if you're eating the payros there, right? Le'inyan bin koina, you're not bin koina. You're not going to go ahead and hefka. You're not going to be koina. Says the Gemara. Maslar of sheishus v'klalahu. Very near a plowed field. If you do it, the benichsi ager koina, you would be koina because it's rafik by porta. Benichsi chaveroi loy koina. But if you do it in the field of your friend, you're not koina. But so therefore, what? Why do you see that your rule of thumb is not good? It won't be koina b'chazaka. It won't be koina b'chazaka. Again, you're going to say yashakoyach. Achilas payros the benichse chaveri kana. You would have a chazak if you eat payros 3 years and the guy doesn't say anything. It would be a good chazaka. Benichse ager loy kana. But in the chosam of a ger, you wouldn't be kana if you eat payros. You didn't do anything in the ground. There's no chazaka. So therefore, for all intents and purposes, Rav Sheshus has destroyed Ula's proof. So now, going back to original question, if you're speaking about an outsider coming in and taking his animal, his chickens, and taking his tanner, his karayim, his rechayim, and establishing it in the chutzner, why in the world is it not a chazaka whether you put up a wall or you don't put up a wall? Either way, you're going to be makbid gomer. And if there's hakpada gomer, it should be a chazaka, even if there's no wall. That's the kasha. Guys, you good? That's the kasha. Even if there's no wall, there should be a chazaka because a person's makbid. No person's letting a stranger, an outsider, into his field to go ahead and do some work. Says Ella, you're right. Ella, Amar Rav Nachman, I'll tell you the pshat. Amar Rav Ravua, Amid Beis, Hacha b'chatzer hashut v'naskinan. In learning, guys, you always have to get off the salkadayach. Remember I told you? You have to understand where the switcheroo took place. We just got off the switcheroo. Initially, we thought it's an outsider. We're not speaking about an outsider. We're speaking about a fellow in the chutzner. They're shutfin in the chutzner. And the hamoda kedi loy kapti, amachitza kapti. Listen, I have to use this field as much as you. This chutzner. I have to use this chutzner as much as you. You're using it. I could use it. Tit for tat. No problem. Therefore, if you do use it, I'm not makbid. Therefore, I've used it for 3 years. Since I'm not makbid, the fact that I wasn't moicha is because I wasn't makbid. If I'm not moicha, then you know what? What's the taina? You should have been moicha. Why should I have been moicha? I'm not makbid, correct? So therefore, it's a good chazaka. However, if you're going to go ahead and be mafriya me, you're going to be kaiveya by putting up walls there, that's a different story. Then I am makbid. And therefore, after 3 years, it would be a good chazaka. After 3 years, it would be a good chazaka. The ma'amad kedi like kapti, hamachitza kapti, hamachitza the makbid. A very clear distinction. Read the Gemara on that teretz. Uba'amad kedi like kapti, by going ahead and setting it up, he's not makbid. But tanan hashutfin shenodru hana zemizeh, a shutif that goes ahead and makes muda hana from each other. Asa likones l'chatzer. It's asa to go ahead what and enter the chatzer. Now we know a person in Masechta Nedarim, a person's muda hana mechaberi can have any hana. So if we own a property together, can I enter your property? So if you're telling me you're not makbid, so therefore what? I'm not giving you any hana because I'm not makbid. If you're telling me that it's asa b'hana, it must be what? Because I am makbid. So we're asking a kasha from the Nedarim on your teretz. You're saying in universal din that what? That shifting are not makbid. You see that even entering the chutzner where you mudana, there's hakpada. So let's see the Rashbam. Asur l'konis l'chutzner. Shekol zman shalei cholku es chutzner. As long as they haven't divided up the courtyard. Nichnas kolecha b'chelik chaveroi. V'kom lei b'leyachol devaroi. Then you're going into your friend's chutzner and you're over on what? The Isser of you made a neder, lo yachel devara. You shouldn't profane your words. That's the issue of nedarim. You shouldn't profane your words. Shari nene mechaveroi, because you had enough from your friend. Sha'imid bechatzeiroi, because you stood in his chatzah. The ma'amada kapti, because you are makbid ma'amada. The misa delay kapti, because if you are a makbid, mutalamei bechatzah chaveroi, you will be permitted by all means to go ahead and stand in your friend's chatzah. Even though you made a neder not to have enough from him. The kivin delay kapid ba'amida. Listen, here's the lumdis, guys. Since you're not makbid ba'amida, here's what I want. Hare hifkur es hachotzer lechol b'nei hachotzer lamoid boy. You were mafker the chotzer to everyone that's there. Guys, you'll ask me a question. The bottom line is how in the world could you possibly go ahead and think that you could stand in my chassid even though I'm not makbid? The bottom line is, are you having hana? And the answer is yes. So why in the world would you be able to stand in the chutzner if you're having hana and you made a neder not to have hana from me? By you standing there, you're not having hana. I am not makbid, but 1 second, you're on my property, and since you're on my property, you're having hana. Since you're on my property, you're having hana. So what's the hezber? Says the Rashbam. Rashbam tells us beautifully. How do we view it if you're not makbid? We view if you're not makbid, we'll view the field as if what? As if it's hefker, the chutzner, as if it's hefker. We'll view the chutzner as if it's hefker. The male, if it's hefker, it's not my property. You're not having enough from me. It's a great kanech, guys, right? In other words, if it's my property, so good. I'm not makbid, but you're having enough for my property. And the answer is, we'll view it as if you're not makbid, as if it's hefker to everyone there. So in other words, I'm mafgrid. If I'm mafgrid, then it's not my property. If it's not my property, you could have a no. Shmak. That little connection to Rashbam. So now, Fredik Marakasha, you're telling me uba hamada kadi, a person's not makbid. 1 second, we see shutfin that make a neder in each other. They're asa b'hana. Obviously, it must be the makbid. And for the Gemara, Ella lashon charata, Rav Nachman, Rabba Ravua, hacha b'rechava shelachuri batem askinon. That mother kadi loy kafta. You know what we're speaking about? We're speaking about the backyard. We're not speaking about the front of the chutzner. We're speaking about the backyard. In the backyard, where the tashmishim there is not going to stir me, it's not in front of the house, do what you want, up until pulling up a wall. Once you put up a wall, then I'm makbid. Once you put up a wall, walls are good when what fences make good friends, something like that. Right? There's a saying that you have a fence that makes good friends. You're going to get it from Rabbi.
Good fences make good neighbors.
There you go. Good fences make good neighbors, right? But when it's your property, then you're make an easement. You put it in. Go a little extra yard on my property. I'm makbid. So 1 terrace, right? The shutfin, you're saying that what shutfin that can't go into the chutzner in nachinami. By chutzner, even if you didn't put up a wall, it would be a chazaka. By chutzner, the way we're learning pshat in the Mishnah, by chutzner, even if you didn't put up a wall, it would be what? It would make a chazaka. Why? Because the person's makbid. And since the person's makbid, we have a Mishnah in the Dorim says, if you mud the hana, you can have enough from each other. What's our Mishnah speaking about? A back lot. It's in the back of the house. If you don't put up a wall, I'm not makbid. Therefore, it's not a chazaka. If you do put up a wall, I am makbid, there is chazaka. That takes care of the stira from the Mishnah in Nidarim to our Mishnah. The Mishnah is Dharma is speaking about a front chutzner. Everyone's makbid in front chutzner, even without a wall. But the back lot, our Mishnah is speaking about a back lot. A back lot, okay, is the difference between a wall and not a wall. That's the teretz of Rabbi Baravua. Okay? So therefore, Ba'amad Kati loy kapid, ba'amachitzu kapti. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa gives a different teretz. Idi b'chotzer hashutfin. They're both Mishnayos are speaking about chotzer hashutfin. Sai our Mishnah, and say the Mishnah one in the Dorim. Now we have a stira. Our Mishnah, you're telling me you're not makbid, and the Mishnah in the Dorim, you are makbid. Vikad the kapti, vikad the loy kapti. And there are those who makbid, and those are not makbid. There are those, yesh v'yesh. Right. Gabi memoina, when it comes to our Mishnah, where it's a din of maminis, lakula. It's a suffix what? If the guy is makbid or not makbid, we'll go lakula and say, if there's no wall, he's not makbid. Gabi Isura, regarding the halacha, the Issa of Yeredeya, the Dorim is in Yeredeya, Issa v'heter, it's not in Choshe Mishpah, it's in Yeredeya, then l'chumra. Then we'll say suffix l'chumra. Very interesting teretz, guys. So watch. We're not, forget the back lot. We're both speaking about the front yard. We're speaking about the chutzner in front of the house, which we're familiar with the picture. Good? Now, what do you have? You have our Shaila and our Mishnah is a din of dinei maminis. There are people who makbid, people who are not makbid. Okay? So with a wall, everyone's makbid. Without a wall, yesh v'yesh. Since it's a suffix, yes or no, we'll say that what? There's no chazaka. We'll be makel and say, this person is not makbid, so if you're there for 3 years, you don't have a chazaka. That's what we'll say. When it comes to mammon, we'll be makel, and we'll say this person who happened to go ahead and allow you to go ahead and use the front chatzah for your karayim and so forth, he's not makbid. Therefore, no chatzah. What about nidarim? Nidarim, you're telling me that what? That you are makbid. Why? How do you know you're makbid? Because it's asa if the guy was mudah enough from you. Over there, since it's isser, and isser is always more chomer than money. Over there, we'll say, you're one of the guys who is makbid, and therefore, if you're mudah hana, therefore it's asa. We'll be machmir by isser, and we'll be maker by heter. Yesh v'yesh. There's some this, some no. Okay, by mammon, we'll go with the person he's not makbid. By however, isser, which is more chomer than mammon, will go with the direction that he is makbid, and since he's makbid, then what? It would be asa b'hana. So two terutzim. One, the difference in our Mishnah, Mishnah Nedarim. The Mishnah, according to Rav Nachman Amar Ravua, our Mishnah is speaking about a backlat. The Mishnah in Nedarim is speaking about a chatzar. A chatzar, everyone's makbid. The Mishnah in Nedarim is speaking about a chatzar. Our Mishnah is therefore it's asa b'hana. And Mashen came by our Mishnah, it's speaking by the backlat. And the backlat is a chilik between whether you put up a wall or not. That was his teretz. Rav Papa's teretz. That was speaking about a shutif, and we're speaking about a chatzar, we're not speaking about a backlat. What's the difference? Why by us you're not makbid, and therefore why it's not a chazaka, and why by there where you're l'chara not makbid and it's asabana? Because there are people who makbid, people who not makbid. So by our Mishnah, which is dinei mammon, this will be mekel and say that the person who allowed you wasn't makbid, and therefore your chazaka is not a chazaka. And the Mishnah in the Darim, which is speaking about Issa, which is Mochamer, will say it's about a person who was makbid. Since he was makbid and he was mudahana, you can't go in his chatzah. That was the second teretz. A third teretz. Ravina Amar, a third teretz to the steer again. The steer is the Mishnah in the Darim to our Mishnah. Ravina Amar. Ravina is of the opinion, Lo'ilam loikapti. Lo'ilam you're not makbid. Lo'ilam you're not makbid. So guys, if you're not makbid, what's pshat in the Mishnah in the Darim? Right? For home money Rebbe Eliezer he. And who's the Mishnah in the Darim? It's Rebbe Eliezer. The Tanya Rebbe Eliezer Omer, Afilu Viter Asa b'mudahana. Afilu Viter is Asa b'mudahana. Guys, you have remember what a baker's dozen is? A baker's dozen. You go to the old day. You would go to the bagel store, and you'd order a dozen bagels. You'd get 13 bagels. I think they forgot that. A baker's dozen. So. Right?
It's 11.
That's what Benji just said. Benji said 11. You mechaber to Benji, Rabbi Avi. Have a good day. Your day is made. Anyway, so guys, geschmack. In other words, vitor means that what's a person mavata on? And even a person's mavata on extra bagel. You go to the fruit stand, right? You want to see how the cherries are, right? So most meichim will let you go ahead, take a cherry and eat it. And see if it is. There are guys who stand outside and and they'll yell at you. So Rabbi is of the opinion that in normal cases when a person is mevata is asa. So the emisvat people aren't makbid. They're not makbid in our mesechta. Since they're not makbid in our mesechta and our mishnah dinei maminis, it's not a chazaka. Over there you're also not makbid. So question: if you're not makbid, then why is it asa b'ana? Because that Mishnah in the Darim goes according to Rebbe Eliezer. Rebbe Eliezer takes it lefnei Meshura Sadin. Even in Vitor, where a person's not makbid, on that he's not makbid on, it's asa b'surina. On that extra bagel, on that extra cherry, on that extra being in the Rishus. Okay, so we have three terutzim, right? The backlat, we have the difference between Isser Mammon and Isser Mammon and the Mishpan Yeridea in the Darim, and we have the opinion that in the Darim, it's speaking, everyone's not makbid, it's not makbid by us, so it's not a chazaka, it's not makbid there either. And normally, according to other Tanoim, if you're mudahana, you're not makbid, it's hefker and you're good. According to Rebbe Eliezer, that he's a feel of vita that's usher, then it would not be good. Okay, a little agadata. Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Noah. Says Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Rabbi Noah. Remember, the next sugi will be all statements of Rabbi Noah and Shas. That's sometimes how you digress. Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Noah. B'chol shut v'ma'akmen zeh al zeh. What's min? If you look at I have a gears to change up. Chutz min akvisa. Anything that they can be ma'aked each other. In other words, you can go ahead. I can stop you from using the rishus for everything. Look at the Rashbam, where it gets wide 5 lines down. The chol shuvim akvin, the chol tashmishin hakavuyim b'chatzer. All tashmishin that are kavua, that are set in the chatzer, you can stop the other guy. You're taking away the airspace. If a guy wants to do it alone, you can stop him. If one guy wants to do it, and the other one doesn't, you can stop him. So you could stop him from doing it. In other words, you could be makbid. You could stop it if you want. The only thing you can't stop is chutz min hakfisa. Says Rashbam, shetiknu loy chachamim sheyasu b'chatzer. Kfisa means washing. Washing garments, they would metakin that what you can go ahead and do in the chatzer. Al karchan against the will shall shutafim chaveirav. Why? If you're saying darken this bazais. Says the Gemara. Let's see the Gemara. On Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Noi, b'chol shutfim makim says that all tashbishim the chatzer you could stop the guy. What's mina kfisa? She'ein derech shel b'nois Yisrael this vazais al gavan noher. Go ahead. It's not the derech that it should not be the derech of b'nois Yisrael to be mavazim himself by the river. Take out the words al kfisa and put al gavei hanoher. Says Rashbam. If you're saying darker this vazais, she'tzricha islam with shom. They have to go ahead and stand there with bare-legged, the galish shaik to reveal their calves. Lamay b'nahar, they have to pick up their dress somewhat to be the nahar. So, in order to avoid this, that women should not be in the river with their leg, even showing their legs, guys, even showing their legs, their calves. To avoid that, they permitted kfisa. They permitted kfisa in the chutzner, right? So. But that's it. So again, says Rabbi Yochanan and Din Rabbi Noi that if you want to stop him, you want to be makbid, you could on everything except one thing. If he wants to set up a washer there to wash the clothing, then you can't stop him because we want to stop the girls from going to have to do the laundry in the river, and it's going to cause a problem that people may come by and look at the girls while they're washing their legs that are uncovered when they're washing. Says the Gemara. Omer of Chia Bar, okay, the Gemara said, "V'oitzim einov meiras bara." Now, there's a pasuk here, fellas, in Yeshaya that's describing a really good guy. Hoylech tzedakos v'doivim meisharim. He goes the right way. He speaks the right way. Moyes bebetza. He rejects bribery. Me'ashakos noya kappa mitmach b'sheichad. Oitem oznaim mishmoya damim. And what does he do? He closes his ears. And v'oitzim einov meiras bara. And he closes his eyes from seeing bara. So on that pasuk, the Navi Yeshaya is lauding an individual who closes his eyes from seeing bara. He closes his eyes from seeing bara. Now the Gemara wants to know what's pshat in this fellow who we're calling a chassid. We're calling this guy a really good guy. So on the pasuk v'oitzim einav meirais bara, amrav chia barav arba zeh she'im mistakel b'nashim b'shashay medes al kfisa. Who's this chassid? This tzaddik is this person who does not look at women when they're standing washing clothing. Hechidami. If there's another way to go and he doesn't go, Rashahu. Fellas, says the Rashbam, he's a Rasha even if he doesn't look. Says the Rashbam, if you go in the way and you know that's going to be women washing their clothing there, even if you go and you don't look. My son Simcha, who's a Rebbe for Bachrim, goes, it's like watching the dirty movie, and you close your eyes at the certain parts. Watching the movie that is rated a certain way, and there's certain parts that are not something we shouldn't see, and you close your eyes. You're still a Russia. Why? Because you watched the movie in the first place. You opened up in the first place. No, it's not a heta to go ahead and avoid being mistakel. So if you're going to walk down that way, says the Rashbam, you're a Russia even if you don't see. Okay. So therefore, and you're calling so it can't be speaking that that's the another way to go. Either lekadach and if there's no other way to go, then anasu. Then even if he sees, then l'chayr is an honest because he has no other way to go. Even if he sees, now if you look at Rashbam, hechidami, the mishtabeach bekra, that the Torah goes ahead and lauds this person im oitza einav, that he closes his eyes. The mashma shim lo yatzim einav, if he doesn't close his eyes, eina loy tzaddik v'loy rasha. He's nishtahi and nishtaher. Okay, so we want to know What are we speaking about? A guy who closes his eyes is a tzaddik. The name is Shura Sadin. But if he doesn't close his eyes, then what? Then he doesn't close his eyes, then he's not a tzaddik, he's not a rasha. So frag the Marakasha. If there's another way to go, and he doesn't go that way, then even if he doesn't see the woman, because he daf went on that road, it's a rasha. If he's going, there's no other way to go, then even if he does see the woman, then what else, what could he have done? So what does the Gemara say? I'll tell you what he could have done. So it says the Gemara, there's no other way to go. A person should go ahead and there's no other way to go. And the chari is an honest if he sees, he should go ahead, what? And he should look away. He should force himself to look away. And the Navi calls you, in that case, by oitzim einav. In other words, in a case where you can't avoid, and possibly you might think that what? So you're okay to look. So you are okay to look. Meaning, you're not a tzaddik, you're not a rasha. But if you close your eyes in a scenario where you can't avoid it, then you're a tzaddik. Then you're a tzaddik. In an area you can't avoid. I once heard, like you walk in New York City, how's it possible? You walk in the summertime, how's it possible? And so I heard that it's the first look is not the problem. It's the second look. The first look is not the problem. You can't avoid that. It's the second look. And that's very shtims with this Gemara very, very much, right? You're walking, you can't help it. You see something. It's the second look that's the problem. If you don't look the second time, you're tzaddik. You're tzaddik. Okay, so now, what does this have in common? We're speaking about Rabbi Yochanan, who's heard this in the name of Rabbi Noah. So that's the commonality between the following Gemaras, that they're all the same because of this. What's the tunic of a Talmud Chacham? When he goes ahead and he walks, it goes down to mamish is full. You don't even see his feet. He's walking, you don't see his legs. You can't see his undergarment, right? That it covers up, and I think that you can only see it covers up to a tefach height. You see over here. I was thinking that a Talmud Chacham, it says about Talmud Chacham, it doesn't say a regular guy. If you see the minig Yisrael is that the Talmidei Chachamim, the people who are they wear these long rekelach, they wear the long coats. You'll find them in Eretz Yisrael. You find very much that people are at a certain time they put on these long coats. I always say it was nicer. My Rabbi was a piece of work. He of course wore the long coat. So I got married, and I remember I had from my previous years, I had this suit from Barney's. Barney's was a fancy store at the time. And at the time, bell bottoms were in, the flares, and I had this really great checkered suit and everything that in my old yeshiva, they would never let me wear. But we wore them. We had the high heel shoes. You had the high heel shoes with the little bell bottoms. It was like, anyway, I asked the Rosh Yeshiva I could wear the suit. And he said to me, he goes, "Favos nicht, ich trage das for the business." He says to me, "Why not? The reason I wear this is only because of the business. I'm Rosh Yeshiva. I have no option." It's like very funny. That's what it's a normal perspective. I found very, very, very geschmack. Anyway, so this is the talis of Talmud Chacham. Shulchan shel Talmud Chacham. What about the Shulchan of Talmud Chacham? Ketzad Shnei Shlishi Gadol, right? Ushlish Goloi. Shlei Shlishim Gadil, 2/3 is covered. Ushlish Goloi, and 1/3 is covered. But alav and the part that's open, ka'aros v'yerek v'tabois mebechutz. So you have ka'aros, you have a yerek, and you have the tabos, the outside. So Rashban brings two pshatim. Now, I was trying to think about this, but it's very funny. I'm going to bring back an old friend, fellas. Simcha has a Pirush Chai on Baba Basra. So if this looks familiar, guys, yeah, remember this from Erevin? Lenny, this is Erevin fame. We had this the whole Masechta Erevin went through these. I had downloaded the whole thing. So he has two pshat, and here's the first one. You have 2/3 of the table are taken up by his bread. 1/3 is taken up by the ka'arais, the salt, whatever. And it seems there was hooks over here and over here. I don't know what the hook's for, to hang things, I guess, to suspend things from there. So the hook's here and there. So that's the two possibilities. That's the first pshat in Rashbam. The second pshat in the Rashbam is it was 2/3 around and a third open in the middle. It was 2/3 around and a third open in the middle. That's it just, not that we needed that, but I just figured, for nostalgic sakes, to bring back the Pirish Chai is nice. So now, so you have these two pshatim. So now, what about these tabois? You saw those tabois, like this hook here and hook there. So we're gonna
As
have
long as we don't bring back Yavamas.
what?
As long as you don't bring back the Yavamas safer.
Okay, I'm not bringing back Yavamas. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not bringing it back. Anyway, says says the Gemara. So Shulchan Shel Talmid Chacham. Okay, we said now. But Tanya Tabata b'mifnim. How can you tell me the tabas is on the outside? It says that tabas is on the inside. Like kasha, hadika yinuka, hadalaka yinuka. Where you have a kid sitting on your lap, you don't want the hook on the inside where you can play with it and shake the table. So then the hook was on the outside. But Mashen came, if you didn't have a kid, then it was on the inside. You don't have a kid. Like kasha, hadika shama, hadalaka shama. If you have a shamish who can go ahead possibly and run into it, you want it on the inside, not the outside. If you don't have a shamish, then it can be on the outside. You have a shamis, but like hasha, during the day he could see, so therefore it can be on the outside. Laila, where he can't see as well, then it's going to be on the inside. Okay, now what about the table of an Amoretz? So the table of Amoretz, this is what his table looks like. Here's the table of an Amoretz. Similar to having a fire with the pots around it. It's a mishmash. He's got the heat is no seder to it, right? There seems to be a mishmash. That's the shulchan of an Amoretz. That's his shulchan. Okay, shulchan shel Amoretz is like what? Amid Aleph doime, Amid Aleph, the madura to a flame. The kederes mekifay seisa, and you have kederes that are surrounding it. Mita shel tamidei chachamim. The mita of a Talmid Chacham, Ketzad, Kol shein tachteha ela sandalim. You have go ahead in sandals, b'imos hachama, uminolim, and shoes that are closed, b'imos hagashom in the winter. So only have underneath there is shoes. Shama aretz doim lo oitze bolum. Now ma'aretz is similar to an oitze it's a cholent. He's got everything underneath there. He's even got food under there. We saw Masech the Brachas, food underneath there, the Ruach Ra, the Shayra on it. That's the difference between the two. Why do we bring this in? Well, because these statements Rabbi Yochanan made in the name of Rav Bana.